I didn't know love could be measured until the day my grandfather died. The room was too quiet for a family dinner. Forks clinked against china, but no one was really eating. The heavy drapes of Grandpa's dining room blocked the autumn evening light, and the shadows stretched like fingers across the long oak table. I could feel my heart hammering in my chest as I slid the envelope from my bag and set it down in front of me. "I have something to read," I said. My voice trembled, but I held on to the words like they were a lifeline. Emma tilted her head, smirking, swinging her new designer purse on the chair beside her. Kyle leafed through the stack of job ads he'd brought, pretending to be helpful. Mom and Dad sat stiffly, exchanging knowing glances as if they'd rehearsed their lines. Only Jake, my sweet, awkward 14-year-old brother, watched me with eyes full of nervous worry. I unfolded the note, the paper worn soft from the countless times I'd read it over the past month. Grandpa's shaky handwriting sprawled across the page, each loop of ink like a whisper from the grave. "Find out who sees your worth when there's nothing to gain," I read aloud. The silence afterward was sharp enough to cut skin. Emma's smirk drained from her face. Kyle opened his mouth, closed it again. Mom and Dad went still, their smug expressions cracking like old porcelain. And Jake started crying, his hands balled into fists on the table. "I thought you were broke," he whispered, voice cracking. "I was saving my allowance to help you with rent." I reached across the table, grabbed his hand. "You're the only one who passed Grandpa's test," I told him, my voice breaking. That's when Dad finally spoke. His tone was calm but carried something deeper, like a warning. "That wasn't the only test your grandfather left," he said. The lawyer, who had been sitting quietly at the far end of the table, shifted in his chair. His briefcase clicked open like a trap. Another envelope. My name on it. My stomach tightened. I didn't want to open it. Not after 30 days of lies, guilt, and watching the people I called family show their true colors. But Jake nudged my arm, his tear-streaked face serious. "You have to," he whispered. I tore the seal with shaking fingers. Inside wasn't another check or another lecture. It was a list. Names, dates, addresses. Some people I knew, some strangers. Certain names circled in red. Grandpa's neat but urgent scrawl at the top. "Your inheritance is more than money. It's trust, responsibility, and discretion. Some of these names need your help. Some of them need to be watched. You will know what to do when the time comes. Fail, and it will cost more than money ever could." The paper trembled in my hands. My pulse roared in my ears. This wasn't an inheritance. This was a map. A challenge. A warning. "What does this mean?" I asked aloud, my voice thin. The lawyer only shrugged. "That's all the letter says. Your grandfather said there might be situations only you can handle." Dad leaned in. "I think your grandfather meant it as a test of judgment," he said softly. "He always believed you had a sharp mind, maybe sharper than the rest of us." Jake squeezed my hand. "So, like spy stuff?" he said half-jokingly. I laughed, but it came out brittle. Spy stuff? This wasn't a joke. My eyes drifted down the list again, landing on a name circled twice in red, Mara Davenport. She was my cousin, barely a year older, someone I hadn't spoken to in years. Her address was scribbled next to the date, tomorrow. The paper suddenly felt heavier. When Grandpa died, I thought grief would be the hardest part. The phone call had come on a gray Tuesday morning. I remember sitting on my kitchen floor, a bowl of cold cereal untouched beside me, while Mom's voice cracked through the line. "He's gone," she said. We gathered for the reading of the will at his lawyer's office a week later. I wore a black dress that didn't fit quite right, the kind you pull from the back of the closet when you're too tired to care. Everyone else's inheritances were announced openly. Property, money, keepsakes. Emma got his vintage car. Kyle got a slice of the savings account. Mom and Dad each received heirlooms. When it was my turn, the lawyer simply slid a sealed envelope across the polished desk. "Your grandfather left specific instructions," he said. I nodded, trying to hide my confusion. "I understand," I lied. I didn't understand at all. At home that night, I sat at my kitchen table under the dim glow of a single bulb. The envelope felt warm from my hands, like it had its own pulse. I tore it open, and Grandpa's shaky handwriting stared back at me. "I left you $10,000. But before you can claim it, you need to test the family. Tell them I left you nothing. Say nothing about this letter. Wait 30 days. Then you'll know who truly loves you." At first, I thought it was cruel. But then again, Grandpa never told lessons straight. He made you live them. The next morning, when the lawyer called to confirm, I told him Grandpa had cut me out completely. The reactions were immediate. Mom nodded like it made sense. Dad stared at the wall. Emma smirked. Kyle shrugged and said, "Maybe you'll learn something from it." The only one who looked confused was Jake. "Wait," he said quietly. "Why are you okay?" That question was the first crack in the mask. The weeks that followed were brutal. Emma flaunted her upcoming Europe trip on Instagram, tagging me with a sorry not sorry caption. Kyle arrived at my apartment unannounced with a stack of job listings, telling me to be realistic. Mom and Dad parroted, "Your grandfather was a wise man," like it explained everything. But Jake slipped $20 bills into my jacket pocket. He brought over pizza when he thought I wasn't eating. He whispered, "It's ugly anyway," when Emma flaunted her new purse at dinner. He was the only one who treated me like family when everyone else treated me like a lesson. By the time the 30 days ended, I knew exactly what Grandpa had been trying to show me. Now, staring at the list, I felt my world tilt. This wasn't just a lesson in love. It was something bigger. Responsibility. Danger, maybe. Names. Dates. Places. I swallowed hard. Immediate attention. For a second, panic clutched my chest. Did Grandpa think something bad would happen to them? Were they in danger? I looked at Jake. "Stay home," I said firmly. "Watch out for anything weird." This is my test. He pouted but nodded. Be careful, he whispered, hugging me. The next morning, I grabbed a backpack, tossed in a notebook, my phone, and a few essentials and left the house. My first stop was Mara's apartment. The address was easy to find. But when I got there, something felt wrong. The door was slightly ajar. A faint sound of crying came from inside. My chest tightened. I pushed the door open carefully. Mara? I called. She appeared from the kitchen, eyes red and swollen. Thank God, she gasped. What's wrong? I stepped inside, scanning the room. Crumpled papers, a broken phone charger, a spilled cup of coffee littered the floor like breadcrumbs leading to her bedroom. She was holding an envelope. My heart sank. Did Grandpa send you this too? She nodded, tears streaming down her face. I don't know what to do. The instructions, I don't understand any of it. And then he called me last night. He said someone might come for me if I didn't handle it. I'm scared. I reached for her hand. Come with me, I said firmly. We'll figure this out together. The apartment smelled faintly of burnt coffee and panic. Mara's hands shook as she held out the envelope, her nails bitten to the quick. I thought it was just me, I whispered, scanning the shaky ink on her page. It looked like Grandpa's, but the message was different. Cryptic, fragmented instructions instead of money. He said someone might come for me if I didn't do what he asked. Her voice broke. Do you believe that? Do you think Grandpa knew something? The words chilled me. Grandpa was a storyteller, a puzzle maker. But he wasn't cruel. He didn't invent fear for no reason. If he told Mara someone might come, then maybe someone would. I swallowed hard, my mouth dry. Pack a bag, I told her. You're coming with me tonight. We checked into a nameless roadside hotel off the interstate, the kind with faded carpets and buzzing neon signs outside the window. Mara perched on the edge of the bed, knees drawn to her chest. I sat at the desk with both letters spread out in front of me, my notebook open, pen scratching furiously. The list looked innocent on the surface, just names and addresses. But when I mapped them, something strange emerged. The circled names formed a kind of path, each date falling close to the next. It was like breadcrumbs. And tomorrow, the next breadcrumb was Mr. Thompson. I remembered him dimly from childhood, the neighbor with the telescope, the one who taught me knots. I hadn't thought about him in years. And yet his name was here, circled in red, with tomorrow's date. My pen tapped against the page. Why these people? Why us? I muttered. Mara leaned forward, her face pale. Maybe he knew something was going to happen. Her words echoed what I'd been too afraid to admit. That night, as the hum of traffic bled through thin hotel curtains, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I hesitated, then answered. A distorted voice rasped through the line. You shouldn't be looking at that list. Stop now. The bottom dropped out of my stomach. Who is this? My voice was sharper than I expected. Silence. Then the click of the call ending. I stared at the screen, pulse pounding. Mara's wide eyes met mine. Was that? Someone who knows about the list, I said flatly. My throat tightened. This isn't just family drama. Someone's watching us. Mara pressed a trembling hand to her mouth. So it's not just a test. It's real. I nodded slowly, feeling the weight of Grandpa's handwriting like a stone in my chest. The next morning we drove 2 towns over, the list folded neatly in my pocket. Mr. Thompson's house sat at the end of a quiet cul-de-sac, the white paint peeling, the yard untended. I knocked twice. No answer. Mr. Thompson? My voice wavered. I pushed the door. Unlocked. Mara grabbed my wrist. Wait. But something inside pulled me forward. The house was dark, curtains drawn. Dust clung to the air. I called his name again, stepping into the living room. That's when I saw him, collapsed in his recliner, pale, eyes fluttering. Call 911. I shouted. Mara fumbled for her phone while I rushed forward, shaking his arm. Mr. Thompson. Can you hear me? His lips moved faintly. Envelope, drawer. I glanced at the side table. The drawer slid open easily. Inside was another letter, the paper trembling in my hands as I pulled it free. The paramedics arrived within minutes, whisking him away. But as Mara and I sat on the porch steps afterward, the letter burned in my palm. It was addressed to me. And inside, another message in Grandpa's shaky hand. If you're reading this, you arrived in time. Good. Keep going. Some of these people will need saving. Some will test your patience. Some will test your soul. Trust your instincts. Not everyone on the list is what they seem. My hands trembled. My instincts screamed. This was bigger than I had imagined. Back at the hotel, Mara and I spread the letters out across the bedspread. Patterns began to emerge. Names linked by invisible threads of memory, coincidence, and something else. But it was the circled ones that haunted me. Mara. Mr. Thompson. Next, an unfamiliar name. Lydia Crane. Address 3 hours north. Date 2 days from now. Do we keep going? Mara whispered, her voice raw. I looked at her. My cousin, who had been a stranger until yesterday, now bound to me by secrets. Yes, I said. My voice shook but didn't break. We keep going. Grandpa believed in me. He trusted me. That has to mean something. But deep down, I felt the shadow of that distorted voice echoing in my skull. You shouldn't be looking at that list. Someone else knew. Someone else wanted me to fail. And suddenly, Grandpa's test didn't feel like a game at all. The drive north was long, the kind of road trip that feels heavier with every mile. Mara sat beside me, fidgeting with the strap of her bag. Outside, the autumn trees blurred into streaks of orange and gold, but all I could see was the red circle around Lydia Crane's name in Grandpa's shaky script. I didn't know her. Not really. A vague memory told me she'd been at a family barbecue once, years ago, but nothing more. So why was she on the list? NY circled. We pulled into a small town with streets that seemed too quiet, like the world was holding its breath. Lydia's address led us to a faded blue house with shutters falling off the hinges. I knocked. Silence. Knocked again. Finally, the door creaked open a crack. A woman with hollow cheeks and wary eyes peered out. Yes, Lydia, I asked. She hesitated, eyes darting to Mara, then back to me. Who's asking? My name is, I swallowed. Should I say? Should I tell her? The list burned in my pocket. I knew my grandfather. He wanted me to check on you. Her lips pressed thin. For a moment, I thought she'd slam the door. Then she opened it wider, revealing a cluttered living room that smelled faintly of mildew and stale air. Come in. Inside, the house felt fragile, like a single wrong move would make it collapse. Boxes stacked against the walls, unopened mail spilling across the table. Lydia perched on the arm of the couch, arms folded. You shouldn't be here, she said quietly. Something in her tone prickled the back of my neck. Why? She glanced toward the window. Because they're watching me. Mara shifted uncomfortably. Who's watching you? Them. Lydia's voice cracked. She stood suddenly, moving to the table, rifling through the scattered papers. She pulled out a crumpled letter, an envelope that looked eerily familiar. Grandpa's handwriting. My breath caught. He said you might come, Lydia whispered, her hands trembling. He said if you did, I should trust you. But I don't know how. I don't know what to do. I reached for the letter, but before I could read it, a sharp crash shattered the silence. The front window exploded inward, glass spraying across the carpet. Mara screamed. Lydia dropped to the floor. I spun toward the noise, heart hammering, scanning for movement outside. A shadow flickered past the bushes, fast, deliberate. They found me, Lydia sobbed. Adrenaline surged through me. I grabbed Lydia by the arm, yanking her up. We need to move. Now. Mara scrambled to her feet, eyes wide. We bolted for the back door, the sound of footsteps pounding outside the walls. The three of us tumbled into the yard, breath ragged, shoes slipping in the damp grass. I didn't look back until we reached the car. But when I did, I saw it. Someone standing at the edge of the yard, half hidden in shadow. Watching. I couldn't see a face. Just the shape of them, tall, still, unmoving. I shoved Mara and Lydia into the car, slammed the door, and peeled out of the driveway, gravel spitting from under the tires. Hours later, the three of us sat in another motel room, the curtains drawn tight. Lydia sat curled in the corner of the bed, rocking slightly, clutching her envelope like it was a life preserver. I paced, notebook open, trying to steady my thoughts. We're being followed, I muttered. This isn't just about family. Someone else is invested in this list. Mara whispered, do you think Grandpa knew? Do you think he knew someone would come after us? I didn't answer. I couldn't. Instead, I sat down beside Lydia, gently prying the letter from her fingers. It was short, only a few lines. Lydia, trust the one who carries the list. When they come, you will not be alone. Stay alert. Stay hidden. You are stronger than you think. My chest tightened. Grandpa's words weren't just cryptic anymore. They were prophetic. I looked at Lydia. You're coming with us. Until we figure this out, you're not safe here. She nodded slowly, tears streaking her cheeks. That night, my phone buzzed again. The same unknown number. I stepped into the bathroom, shutting the door behind me, heart racing. Hello. The same distorted voice hissed through the line. You're digging where you shouldn't. Walk away, or you'll regret it. I gripped the phone tighter. Who are you? What do you want? A low laugh, metallic and cruel. It's not about what I want. It's about what your grandfather knew. And he isn't here to protect you anymore. The line went dead. I stared at my reflection in the mirror, pale and shaking. For the first time, I wondered if I was in over my head. But then I thought of Jake. His hand slipping 20s into my pocket. His whisper, it's ugly anyway. The way he believed in me when no one else did. I couldn't stop now. Back in the motel room, I pulled everything from my bag. The envelopes, my notes, the map of addresses. As I spread them out across the floor, something clicked. The circled names weren't random. They connected, forming a rough line across the state. And at the center of that line was Grandpa's old house. I froze. My pen hovered over the page. Could it be? Was everything leading back to him? Look at this, I whispered, pulling Mara and Lydia closer. He wanted me to follow the trail. To gather people. To see who I could trust. Mara frowned. But why? For what? I shook my head slowly. I don't know yet. But I think whatever comes next happens at his house. Lydia shivered, clutching her letter tighter. Then we're walking straight into the trap they warned us about. The next morning, as we packed, my phone buzzed with a text from Jake. Something weird happened. A man was outside the house last night. Just standing there. Watching. I called Dad, but he brushed it off. Please come back soon. My stomach twisted. My baby brother, alone in that house with shadows watching from outside. I wanted to drive straight home, but the list still had names left unchecked. And Grandpa's warning echoed in my mind. Some of them need your help. Some of them need to be watched. If I abandon the list now, would I fail? I typed back quickly. Stay inside. Lock the doors. Don't trust anyone except me. I'll be there soon. I didn't send the part that screamed inside my chest. Please God, be safe. As the car engine rumbled and the road stretched before us, I gripped the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles ached. Mara sat beside me silent, staring out the window. Lydia dozed fitfully in the back, clutching her envelope like a lifeline. The list sat on the dashboard, its red circles burning into my vision. Grandpa had set something in motion, something bigger than money, bigger than lessons. And now, whether I liked it or not, I was in the middle of it. I didn't know if I was strong enough. But I had no choice. I took a deep breath, the kind you take before plunging underwater. Okay, Grandpa, I whispered. I'm listening. Show me what you wanted me to see. The drive back toward Grandpa's house felt like crawling into the heart of a storm. The sun had already set, and the two-lane highway was swallowed in black. My headlights caught the edges of old fence posts and sagging telephone wires. Mara kept her gaze fixed on the window, her reflection pale in the glass. Lydia sat in the back, restless, whispering to herself. Jake's last text burned on my phone screen. He's still outside. I think he knows you're coming back. I pressed the accelerator harder, a low growl in my chest. Whoever he wasn't going to touch my brother. Grandpa's house sat at the end of a gravel drive, its silhouette stark against the rising moon. The windows were dark except for a faint glow in the kitchen, the same glow I'd sat under when I'd opened the first envelope. I parked at the edge of the yard and cut the engine. The night was silent. Too silent. Stay here, I told Mara and Lydia. No way, Mara whispered. We're coming with you. I nodded once. Then stay close. We crept up the porch steps. The wood creaked beneath our weight. My hand hovered over the doorknob. It turned easily. Unlocked. Inside, the house smelled of dust and memory. The faint glow from the kitchen led us down the hall. Jake. I called softly. A chair scraped. Then he appeared in the doorway, his face pale but determined. I knew you'd come back, he whispered. I pulled him into a hug, clutching him tight. Are you okay? He nodded, but his eyes flicked to the window. He's still out there. Who? Jake swallowed. A man. He's been here every night since you left. Just watching. I told Dad, but he said I was imagining things. My heart pounded. Where is he now? Jake pointed toward the backyard. I crossed to the back window and peered out. There, at the edge of the trees, stood a figure, tall, still, the moonlight catching the edge of a dark coat. My breath caught. He didn't move. Didn't step forward. Just stood there, a dark blot on the silver grass. Lydia trembled. He followed us here. Or he was already here, Mara muttered. I turned back to Jake. Lock the doors. All of them. He nodded and ran down the hall. Grandpa's house had always had a basement, dark, damp, filled with old boxes. But tonight, as I walked past the door, something made me stop. A thin line of light glowed beneath it. I glanced at Mara and Lydia. Stay here, I whispered. I descended the stairs slowly, each creak echoing like a gunshot. The basement smelled of earth and old wood. At the far end, an old workbench sat beneath a dangling bulb. On it lay another envelope, my name scrawled in Grandpa's uneven script. My hands shook as I picked it up. I tore the envelope open, the paper brittle. Inside, a single page. If you are here, it means you've chosen to follow the list. Good. The people you've gathered are part of this. The man outside is not a stranger. He is a test, but not for you. For them. Trust no one completely, not even those you've helped. You must decide who is here to protect, and who is here to harm. I read it twice, my pulse thundering. A test, not for me, for them. Mara's voice floated down the stairs. What does it say? I folded the letter and shoved it into my pocket. We need to stay together, I called back. Now. When I climbed back up, the room felt different. Mara stood near the window, Lydia perched on the couch. Jake hovered by the hall, his fists clenched. The man outside had stepped closer. He was at the edge of the porch now, his face still hidden beneath the brim of a hat. My heart hammered. Who are you? I shouted through the glass. No answer. Get out. Still nothing. Then Mara stepped forward. I know him, she whispered. I turned stunned. What? He came to me before you arrived. Said Grandpa sent him. Said he'd keep me safe. I stared at her. And you didn't tell me? I didn't know if I could trust you, she shot back, voice cracking. Grandpa told me to wait. To see. The realization slammed into me. Grandpa's words. Trust no one completely, not even those you've helped. My gaze flicked to Lydia, who was watching us both intently. Her hands weren't shaking anymore. They were still. Too still. Suddenly Lydia stood, stepping toward the door. I'll handle this, she said calmly. Wait. I started, but she'd already unlocked it. The man stepped inside without resistance, closing the door behind him. He removed his hat. His face was older-lined, but his eyes were cold. You've done well, he said to Lydia. My stomach dropped. Lydia glanced back at me, her expression unreadable. He said you'd be strong enough to get us here. To gather the names. To follow the list. My breath caught. Why? The man smiled faintly. Because your grandfather built something he didn't want falling into the wrong hands. And you just delivered it to us. For a moment, the room spun. I saw Grandpa's handwriting, Jake's worried eyes, Mara's smirk at the will reading, Lydia's trembling hands. It had all been a test. Not just of love. Not just of trust. A test of judgment. I straightened slowly, my hands curling into fists. You're not taking anything, I said. My voice was low but steady. The man raised an eyebrow. And who's going to stop us? Jake stepped forward, his small frame tense. I will, he said. Something in me snapped. Get behind me, Jake, I ordered. I reached into my bag and pulled out the only weapon I had, a heavy flashlight. My pulse roared in my ears. Grandpa's words echoed. You will know what to do when the time comes. I swung the flashlight hard against the light switch, plunging the room into darkness. Chaos erupted. In the dark, I grabbed Jake's hand and Mara's arm. Run. I hissed. We bolted through the kitchen, out the back door, into the yard. My feet pounded the grass, breath ragged. Behind us, voices shouted, footsteps scrambled. We didn't stop until we reached the edge of the woods. I spun around, pulling the list from my pocket. It was damp with sweat. Mara gasped, clutching her side. What now? I stared at the paper. At the names. At the empty spaces where I'd crossed people off. We finish it, I whispered. The forest swallowed us whole. Branches clawed at my arms. Twigs cracked underfoot. Jake's hand was clammy in mine, his breath sharp. Mara stumbled behind me, muttering curses between gasps. We didn't stop running until the shouts faded into the distance, leaving only the heavy thrum of my heartbeat in my ears. I leaned against a tree, forcing my lungs to steady. Are we safe? Mara whispered. No, I said too quickly. Not yet. Because I knew men like that one didn't give up. He'd follow. He'd keep following until he had what Grandpa left. And the list, the cursed precious list, was still in my pocket. We made camp that night in a clearing, huddled around a small fire Jake insisted he could build. I watched the flames lick upward, their glow dancing across Mara's face. She looked older than I remembered, hardened. You lied, I said quietly. She flinched. About what? You knew that man. You let him in. Her lips trembled. I didn't know him. He came to me weeks ago after Grandpa died. Said Grandpa wanted him to keep me safe. I thought. She shook her head. I thought it was real. Until tonight. And you never thought to ask why Grandpa would send a stranger instead of me? My voice cracked with anger. Mara's eyes filled with tears. I didn't trust you either. You lied at the will reading. You said you got nothing. My chest tightened. She wasn't wrong. Jake looked between us, his young face caught between anger and confusion. Stop fighting, he whispered. We don't have time. He was right. Grandpa hadn't left us this test to tear us apart. I pulled the last envelope from my bag, the one from the basement, the one that warned me not to trust anyone completely. The paper trembled in my hands. Mara leaned forward. What does it say? I hesitated, then fed it to the flames. The paper curled, blackened, vanished in smoke. Mara gasped. Why would you do that? Because Grandpa didn't want us clinging to his words like scripture, I said, my throat tight. He wanted us to decide. To choose who to trust. To make our own judgment. Jake's eyes glistened in the firelight. So what now? I looked at them both. Now we finished the list. The next morning we reached the final name on the list. It was circled 3 times in red. Harrison Field, 9 a.m. Grandpa's handwriting gave no clue beyond that. A time. A place. Nothing more. When we arrived, the field was empty, dew glistening on the grass. A mist clung low to the ground, and the autumn air smelled of damp earth. Mara hugged herself. What are we supposed to do here? We wait, I said. At first, the silence was suffocating. Then, slowly, figures emerged from the fog. 1, 2, 5. More. People. All the people from the list. Some I recognized, neighbors, family friends. Others were strangers, each of them holding envelopes. And at the center of them all stood the man from the house. He stepped forward, his dark coat brushing the grass. His eyes, now visible in the morning light, were sharp and calculating. You passed, he said simply. My blood turned to ice. What do you mean? This was the final gathering, he explained. Your grandfather left instructions with many of us. Some to protect you, some to test you, some to mislead you. He wanted to see if you had the judgment to know the difference. I stared at him. You broke into Lydia's house. You terrified us. He nodded, unashamed. Fear reveals truth faster than comfort. And you didn't break. You protected them. That's what he wanted to see. Mara whispered. So this was all orchestrated? Not all, the man said. His gaze fixed on me. There were dangers, yes. Real ones. People who would have gladly taken advantage of your family's inheritance. But your grandfather trusted only one person to see the test through. You. My knees threatened to buckle. All the nights of doubt, the weight of every envelope, every lie, every whispered warning. It all led here. The man pulled an envelope from his coat and extended it to me. The final inheritance, he said. I didn't move. My voice shook. What if I don't want it? His lips curved faintly. Then you've already proven you're worthy of it. I reached out slowly, taking the envelope. Inside was a check, far larger than the first, and another note in Grandpa's hand. Love is measured not in words, but in choices. You chose well. Share this with those who earned it. And remember, the true inheritance was never the money. It was the people who stood with you when you had nothing. Tears blurred my vision. Jake gripped my arm. See? He believed in you all along. In the weeks that followed, I divided the money quietly, discreetly. Jake got the largest share, not because of blood, but because of the way he'd loved without question. Mara received enough to start fresh, on the condition that she never let herself be misled again. Even Lydia, despite her betrayal, received a portion, because Grandpa had written her name too, and I had to trust that he saw something I couldn't. As for the man in the coat, I never saw him again. Sometimes I wondered if he was even real, or just another of Grandpa's lessons wearing flesh. Now, sitting at the same kitchen table where it all began, I unfold the first letter once more. The edges are worn, the ink fading. Find out who sees your worth when there's nothing to gain. Grandpa was gone, but his voice lingered in those words. He hadn't just left me money. He hadn't just left me a test. He'd left me myself. For the first time, I felt the weight of his trust settle not like a burden, but like armor. I glanced at Jake, sprawled on the couch with his homework, and smiled. I had passed the test. And somehow, in the process, I'd finally understood what inheritance really meant. The money faded, the names blurred, but the truth remained. Love is the only inheritance that survives the test of time.